Hey guys, I wanted to make this quick little video to commemorate the 300 subs that we managed to reach, and honestly the support has been amazing, and all the comments and all the interest that you guys have shown in the videos. I'm really happy that you like the videos as much as you do, and you've given me something to do as we're waiting for Path of Exile 2 and, well, Path of Exile 1 next league, right? And I'm hoping that you get your daily content. Well, hopefully daily. Yeah, sometimes the builds don't come out every single day because they're a little bit harder to make, but hopefully you get your content and you enjoy the videos and you don't lose the love for the game, right? So again, I want to say thank you, and for this 300 special, I wanted to kind of show you guys my process. Don't look at this. This is something that I'm cooking right now for the next video. This is saved. And so there's been just recently some of you who are wondering how I'm cooking the build, how I'm deciding on maybe the ascendancies, maybe what kind of defensive layers that it will have, right? So let's say we choose a skill, right? Let's go with something. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Not this, maybe. Scorching Ray. Let's say we're playing Scorching Ray, right? So in this particular case, first I look at the skill and see what it has. See its strengths and see its weaknesses, right? So from what I understand over here, we're a fire dot, right? However, this is not a hit-based skill, and basically we're just gonna have to either scale normal fire damage or damage over time multipliers and spell damage, and it has 8 stages. So that means we do need a little bit of cast speed, which generally for skills like these, I don't like standing in place and channeling too much. Well, we did the incinerate one, right? So it was not a big deal. You can do self-cast, but for a skill like this, I could consider totems. However, since it only has 8 stages, and Blight of Atrophy, for example, that we did, that one had 20 stages, so totems made more sense. So for this one, I would probably go with a self-cast. And now we kind of have to decide which Ascendancy we're playing, right? So for this particular case, we probably don't really want to go with the Elementalist. Sure, Elementalist has a little bit of fire damage, right? Well, a lot of fire damage, but we don't ignite, so there's really no point, right? So we could potentially go. Well, this is what I'm doing, right? I'm kind of weighing the options of each of the ascendancies that I think could benefit the skill. I mean, obviously you can play Trickster with pretty much any skill, right? Or I don't know, some sort of stacker, like in stacking anything as well. You could probably make this skill work on those as well, right? But in this case, I don't know. Let's see. So out of the witches, occultist doesn't really make sense. Elementalist is kind of mid. Necromancer, well, Necromancer is good in general. It has insane defensive layers, right? So potentially, you could play Necromancer if you wanted to. Guardian probably won't do much for us. Inquisitor, it has these, which are always good. This, which does increase a little bit of damage, but the other nodes are useless. So, I don't really want to waste one Ascendancy node. So Inquisitor is probably not going to be the play. Hierophant. So Hierophant does make sense. We can always get a defensive layer from Mind over Matter, right? As mentioned, if you want, you can probably play this with totems as well. It's probably not going to be as good because there's only 8 layers of the debuff and it's only 10% per each, so it kind of makes more sense to do it manually. And Conviction of Power and Arcane Surge are perfectly good and usable notables in here. So we could go with Hierophant. I don't particularly like Hierophant. Well, I don't like Mind over Matter primarily, but you know, this is a pretty good option so far out of the ones that we looked. Hierophant is probably the best one. Chieftain, I mean, well, you could potentially do the Chieftain as well if you wanted to, right? You get free defenses, you get some explodies, which this skill, since it doesn't have ignite or proliferation, explodies might actually be pretty good over here. And we have this Ramako, right? Could be good. Chieftain is another decent ascendancy. Zark and Juggernaut probably aren't gonna be the choices. None of these really make sense. Of course, Champion, again, you can have fortification, right? You can have adrenaline, although we are kind of using half of it, wasting half of it. Auras, if you wanted to. Banners, I don't really like banners. I don't know why this node exists, but I think the banners are a little bit too weak in my opinion. But that's beside the point. And Conqueror, kind of wasted since that skill doesn't hit, I imagine. Probably, because it's just dot, right? So we can't even taunt, although technically with Warcries, you could make use of the reduced damage, right? None of these really make sense, obviously. And lastly, the Trickster, so, well, not the Trickster, the Shadow Ascendancy, so Trickster, you can make most things work with Trickster. That's kind of primarily why I don't really want to do too many builds on Trickster. It just is pretty strong, right? Like, a lot of things can work on it. These don't really make any sense either. So realistically, with this skill, I only have two choices. So either Hierophant or Necromancer. Necromancer would be a little bit more defensive. Well, actually, not even. Like with a well built Mind or Matter, you can have huge max hits, right? But yeah, I would probably go with the Hierophant for this one. So let's say we go with the Hierophant. So we're going to be using these for the defense. Well, this is kind of defense and offense technically. But power charges, we're not really making use of power charges unless we do Glorious Vanity, not Glorious Vanity, Militant Faith with Dominus. Then we can get some spell damage, which does benefit us. But again, I will have to weigh whether it's worth it for me to go with Militant Faith or rather than, let's say, just Lethal Pride, or because Lethal Pride I think has some cool stuff. Double damage obviously doesn't work, but if anything, I can just make use of strength or something like that, right? Maybe some defensive layers, reduced crit, right? So, does this even work? Probably doesn't even work. Arcane Blessing probably doesn't even work. I don't know. So you know, obviously I don't know everything, right? I imagine this doesn't hit because it's a dot. So this probably doesn't even work. So either I would have to do, well, I mean, you can make use of this still. For example, you can have Flame Dash linked with Arcane Surge, and we can still make use of the Arcane Surge overall. The cast speed and the mana regen, as well as 20% more spell damage, we could prog that ourselves, right? Well, I can also link Arcane Surge over here because I just need to spend mana and then it'll proc as well. So ideally, when you're playing Hierophant, you wanna just have this on a hit spell, right? So you don't need to do anything other than just allocate this node. But in this case, we will have to play a little bit around it. But yeah, so naturally, if we're playing Mind or Matter, well, we're stacking mana at this point. I don't really like mana stackers, but you know, generally you kind of just go for the normal stuff, right? Probably go over here. A natural insect over here in this case probably doesn't do anything because it's not an AoE spell, so we don't need that. But regardless, you know, you can at the very least grab either this or this. Kind of need to decide. For this, it's probably, you know, this one's probably better. We can't really use Archmage, so there's no point going in. Actually, Archmage is changed, so making this doesn't even do much for us. So you know, you probably want a bunch of mana. We don't want crit, so probably gonna go here. Cast speed, we're gonna need cast speed since we're self-casting, so we can get that thing a little bit faster. Power charges, so again, I mean, I'm not gonna go for power charge right now, probably for now. Uh, I would just do this, because we don't know if we're going Militant Faith yet or not, right? And yeah, basically you just grab a bunch of stuff that you can use. This is also a little bit of mana, so this is good. Then you can always think about whether you want to go Pain Attunement, although unless you don't really have as much. If you don't really want to stack mana, Pain Attunement could be a pretty good option. So you can just kind of have a little bit of mana, like 3k, not even 3k, you don't even need 3k. If you go Pain Attunement, let's say you have 4k health, right? And you go Petrified Blood and you stay at half HP and you have Pain Attunement on, so realistically, since with this and this and this, we have 50% damage taken from mana, so you know it's kind of 50-50 split. So if I have 2k unreserved life, I only realistically need 2k mana. So if you want, you can do this. It's a pretty good option to get some extra spell damage, right? And yeah, basically you would just grab a bunch of stuff. I mean, realistically, you probably want a little bit more mana, right? So maybe like this, maybe drop these later on if you don't need as much mana. And generally in these cases, like for some skills, for example, if I would be playing Archmage, right? What I do, so I don't need to build everything out, so I can kind of gauge whether something that I'm doing is effective or not. I just do like this, plus 5,000 to mana. Well, realistically, 12k is a little bit on the higher end, so let's do 3k. So 8k mana is perfectly reachable with just a couple of uniques, right? Like you go Mind Spiral at 0 is foiable, and you can pretty much get 5k mana, and you know a bunch of other items if you want. But realistically, you can reach around 7k mana. But in this particular case, I probably wouldn't go for a mana stacker because you know we're not using Archmage because we can't, because it's not a hit-based spell. So realistically, this much mana is kind of wasted. Probably just focus a little bit more on mana regen, and I would probably in this case go Spell Attunement since we can't use Archmage, so I don't need to stack any mana at all, and just focus a little bit more on life regen. And in this case, actually, we could make use of a pretty cool tech that I haven't been able to do yet. Well, I just don't really play much Hierophant, but we can do Glorious Vanity. Let's see, where could we use Glorious Vanity? I mean, here we're kind of wasting mana, but like I said, we probably don't need as much mana. This wheel is probably gonna be enough. Probably won't even need to get that much more. Wait. Yeah. So, you know, we could go for Glorious Vanity, which again would make us a little bit weak to chaos damage, but alternatively we could be using Fourth Vow as well if we wanted to, which I could suck it in, right? It's pretty good. Although with Fourth Vow we kinda are forced to get a little bit more armor, but so far I don't really need to go all the way to the top side to well, I don't need many nodes over there, right? I just need a little bit of cast speed, and that's about it. And other than that, I can probably focus on regen on the left side of the tree. So you can go Doriani and oh yeah, Eternal Youth. So well, full DPS won't work right now because I don't have it enabled, but if you do live, generally it works. So just grab whatever. We only want. Oops. Yeah, there we go. So this is pretty cool. So first of all, we would be getting a bunch of energy shield, like Let's say we do plus 2000 life. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too much, right? Let's say we do 1000, so 3.3. So without really allocating any points, we have, or any items, we would have 800 energy shield. And of course, we would be going, don't know why it's pathing like that. I mean, these don't do much. I guess this was faster, but I don't really need nodes over here. So, you know, pain attunement would be pretty good. Generally, I grab sockets as well. Pain attunement would be very good. Recoup also goes hard. Recoup is nice, but you know, I won't allocate the recoup right now. So you have pain attunement, so you are kind of forced to going low life, which is fine. We can go petrified blood, right? However, since we do wanna have some mana, we probably won't be able to. Well, there's right now two things that I'm thinking. So I could either go Aegis Aurora and only use the, let's say, Petrified Blood and Vitality on life. I think that should make me be at around 50% life with Aegis Aurora, and sorry, not Aegis Aurora, Prism Guardian. And in this case, I would be able to probably socket in one more aura on mana if I balance out my mana and life right? So I would still naturally need a little bit more life, I mean a little bit more mana, but with some items I could probably end up with like, I don't know, 2k unreserved mana. Sorry about that. I would probably end up with like 2k unreserved mana, and I would have, let's say, 2k unreserved life, and I would also have around 2k energy shield if I build everything right, and also petrified blood. And this is really cool because you know, we have a bunch of split. We literally split 50 damage between life, energy shield, and mana. So this would be pretty cool if I went this way. And honestly, what I like to do with these, if you've noticed, if you're playing Templar, you can always suck it in Pious Path, right? So for Pious Path, I would need a bunch more strength. But honestly, no, I don't really need to go over here. I can just grab these and keep the cast speed because that's primarily what I need. So getting 150 more strength, that's probably going to be enough just from the tree itself, because I would go something like this, life, punch this, probably this, because we're going to need, well, let's say we would be going fourth vow, right? So in this case, let's say I already decided that I'm going fourth vow, so I'll be going fourth vow. And of course, with fourth vow, I naturally need a bunch of armor. Sadly, well, this wheel is pretty good, but this is kind of the only place where I'm left for glorious vanity. Actually, not worth it probably. These I can get rid of probably. And again, if you know, if I need more mana, I can still get a little bit more from this side of the tree, right? Let's say this. But also, I will probably end up taking this one. Arcane Surge effect. Pretty nice. It's not that crazy, but you know, it's mana, it's Arcane Surge effect, and also there's a bunch of good nodes over here, like these, right? If it depends on how much mana I want to reserve, because I still need to keep a little bit of mana for Mind Over Matter in this case. However, this build would rely heavily on regen rather than a high flat amount. But let's say this is also what I like to do, just do plus 200 to all elemental resistances, and then you can kind of, well, as you can see right now with I guess there's a little bit too much life right now. Let's say we invest pretty heavily into life, so we have around 8k life, 4k life, and our max hits are already looking pretty good. And of course, if you get a little bit, if you balance out the mana, energy shield, and life, Well, I mean, I would be using Petrified Blood, and Petrified Blood sometimes is a little bit wonky, but especially with the with the tech. So, you know, like this is kind of what I'm thinking. You start off by choosing the ascendancy. Well, first you choose the skill, right? Then you choose the ascendancy, and then you just kind of see what nodes you have. So I know I needed a little bit of cast speed because I'm gonna be self-casting. I know I needed mind over matter because I'm playing this. Then I kind of just pivoted into, hey, maybe I don't need as much mana because I'm not using Archmage. There's not that much benefit, right? If I just focus on region of the mana instead of the flat amount, it's probably gonna be just as good. Um, Especially against smaller hits. That would make it even better, right? So I decided that I can go for pain attunement. And if I'm going pain attunement, then I like to be low health always. So I need to reserve some life. If I'm reserving life, I'm going probably Prism Guardian. Otherwise, it's a little bit tricky without that. And well, you still can obviously, but let's say I'm going Prism Guardian. And if I'm on low life and with Petrified Blood, that means that oh yeah, I still forgot to do it. So as I said, whenever you're playing Templar and you're using Doriani, Corrupted Soul, you can get this pious path for pretty cheap. These the Forbiddens are like, I don't know, maybe one divine, maybe less. Point is, you can get pious path and apply life regen to energy shield, and all you need to do is spend 5 or something divines on rational doctrine. So you do rational doctrine. And of course, you do need to have strength, more strength than intelligence. So, you know, well, right now I kind of passed over here there, but just for the sake to kind of show you, give me strength. Okay. So we have rational doctrine, and we already have 700 life regen, and I only invested into these nodes into region. And if this is also pretty good, this is also pretty good. You know, if the glorious vent is not here. So for example, I might even place the glorious vent over here if it's worth it, right? I still don't know because the pathing isn't optimized, but um, well, obviously this pathing is not not good, right? But this glorious vanity kind of makes it hard to path around it. So I could potentially socket in glorious vanity over here and just path a little bit normally and maybe drop a bunch of these nodes if I don't need them, right? It really depends. But with glorious vanity you have and rational doctrine, then you do pious path. Sadly, for some reason you cannot do it in the configs. But you know, you have 700 DS and 700 life per second, and if you're always with let's say you're doing Aegis Aurora again, Prism Guardian. You do Prism Guardian, you do Petrified Blood, and you do Vitality, and you still have a little bit Arctic Armor, since we're standing in place. Perfect, we're at 50%. And take this just in case. Sometimes you are at 50%, but you have like one more life. So, but right now I'm on low life with a vitality, 3 life region nodes, and let's say this is 5 divines and this is 1 divine each. So, and for 7 divines, I have 1k region of life and energy shield, and then of course, mana region. You can probably just have that on clarity, right? And get a little bit more mana. So you kind of balance it out. Of course, energy shield, ideally you do want a little bit more. Well, right now, since we're on petrified blood, so it prevents 40%, right? So for the sake of the maxit, you would want 40% more energy shield and mana than life. Around this, and plus, and then let's do 500 to energy shield. So this is kind of what you would be looking at. Like these are very realistic numbers. 3k mana, 3k energy shield. Well, because we're getting a lot of energy shield just from life itself, right? And also you can grab this if you want. This alone gives us 500. If we're well, right now we are kind of a little bit overstacked on life, right? But let's say in a not too high investment, you would have, I don't know, let's say 4k life and 4k mana, and then you get some energy shield gear. Like, well, ideally you want armor and energy shield, right? But you can probably get 4k energy shield regardless, because we're getting so much just from life, from this, right? And from mana as well. So if you just get a little bit more mana and a little bit more life, and you're kind of halfway there already, and then the rest you get from armor. So, this way our max hits are already looking good. Of course, we do need to be stationary, but since we are channeling, we would be stationary most of the time. And just with these and these two items, you would be doing pretty well. Of course, chaos is right now is bad because I typed in all elemental resistances. You need to do all resistances. But generally, chaos is a little bit rough. But regardless, like we don't even have max res, right? But we can grab a bunch. We were pretty close to max res over here, right? So then you think kind of about whether you want to go for max res or maybe you want to ignore the passive points. You could go for Tides of Time with flasks, right? You could get some max res that way. Naturally, suppression is a little bit too far. Technically, I guess you could get Magebane, but we don't really have much dex. And we already have fourth vow. It just makes sense to get more armor, right? You could even just forego the energy shield on under armor pieces in general. Just go for full armor and grab a bunch of armor nodes, right? But yeah, this is basically how I think about the builds. And well, after that you just kinda scale everything. But yeah, this is the way I do it. I don't know how other people do it, but for me this has been working. And I do play a lot with configs, just to kinda so I don't need to place every item in every slot, right? I generally do something like this to kind of just emulate what I would have. So yeah, guys, I don't know if this video is any good, but I just wanted to make it in case if you were wondering, and also to thank you guys for the support. You've been amazing, and as usual, if you guys want to chat in the comment section, feel free to drop a comment, and I try to go over every single one. At the very least, press a like button, you know. But yeah, I generally tend to reply. But yeah, for now, thank you guys, and of course, another build coming out today. You've kind of already seen a preview, but shh, don't tell anyone. But yeah, I will be talking to you guys later today. Bye bye.